at least in the circles that I personally am in, it's more known that like, oh yeah, adult hockey, one, exists, and two, tends to be pretty accepting of queer people. And then, probably, several queer people who are on a team who would be willing to, vouch for you and make sure that it's a safe space for you if you want to just try it too. Mason LeFebvre. How old am I? 27. Sorry, my birthday was earlier this month, so I keep forgetting. I grew up in New Hampshire. I've played hockey since I was 10, so it's about 17 years now. Goalie for almost all of that. And fun fact, apparently, according to my parents, I don't remember this, the original reason I wanted to learn to ice skate was because I wanted to be the mascot for my favorite college team.
I love that. How did Mason get into hockey?
So I watched a lot of University of New Hampshire growing up because that's where my parents met. So we got season tickets originally through my uncle, and then eventually my parents got them. And so I grew up watching that a lot. And at some point, I guess I just decided I wanted to try it. I don't know. I don't really remember. I just remember loving it. I don't know. I don't really remember exactly what triggered it specifically.
What do you love about hockey?
It's always different. You never really know what's going to happen when you get on the ice. And it's just calming to me. I can, like, if I'm having a bad day or a bad week or whatever, I always feel better if I go to the rink or if I go out in my garage and just shoot some pucks or something like that. It's a really good stress relief. And it's just interesting because, like I said, you don't know what's going to happen.
It's so true. I remember when I was struggling with my sexuality when I was, in my teenage years and in junior and into pro, the only time I felt like myself was on the ice. The only time that nothing bothered me was on the ice because my focus was solely on hockey.
Yeah.
Based off your intersection of identities, how could hockey be better for you? And also, how could it be better for the queer community as a whole?
I struggle in locker rooms a lot. If I play with women's teams, I don't fit in because I don't identify as a woman. And I don't look like one anymore. But if I'm in men's locker rooms, I'm uncomfortable because unless I know the team really well, unless it's like a group I've been playing with for a while, I'm pretty uncomfortable because I don't know how they feel about trans people or gay people or any of that, and so I just feel like I have to hide myself in the locker room, which is difficult seeing as my goalie mask has the pride flag on it. So there's only so much hiding I can actually do.
It is tough, and it's, a scary space for queer people still. And it's a space that is probably, like, people talk about hockey culture, sports culture being the final frontier. In my opinion, it's really locker room culture.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that you're saying, like, that's how it can be better for you. And it's one thing that hasn't been touched on a lot here, but I'm glad you did. So thank you. That said, knowing what it's like in there, what keeps you in the sport?
Everything that happens outside the locker room. Just hanging out with teammates. If it's a locker room that I'm comfortable in, if it's a team that I know really well, then pretty much everything. I mean, then the locker room doesn't bother me. So just getting to know people, getting to watch players grow. I've been involved with a number of adult rec teams as a goalie coach. and that's just a lot of fun to watch, and get to see these players who can barely figure out how to put their pads on at the beginning of the season and see where they can be by the end of the season. And just, it's just something I've always had, as the stress relief, and it just consistently, I don't know, it's there for me, I guess.
And it can be like you said, the stress relief. I always think that hockey could be an empowerment tool for so many, and that relief, that stress relief, that place where they can go and just feel free, and it needs to be. And for many it isn't yet, but I'm glad in a lot of instances it is for you.
Yeah,
um
I just get to feel like me on the ice. It's just nice.
it is nice, and it's so important. uh and with that, I'd like to know, what gives you hope for queer people in the sport?
The reception to, Team Trans has actually been really promising. I thought there would be more, I don't want to say backlash, I guess, but just like, I guess I thought that at the most people would be like, okay, that's kind of weird, but whatever. But most of the time when I tell people about it, or if they ask about like the logo or something, because I wear a lot, I'm wearing two Team Trans things right now, actually. Um, if they ask about the logo and I tell them like, oh yeah, it's Team Trans, we're all transgender hockey players, whatever. They're always like, oh, that's really cool, and they want to know more and they want to see the games, and um, people want to get queer people involved. Um, I've had friends tell me that like, oh yeah, I never played sports growing up, and I'm like, well, do you want to learn to ice skate? Do you want to play hockey? And the queer people want to be involved. The cishet people want the queer people to be involved. So like, at least in the circles that I personally am in, it's more known that like, oh yeah, adult hockey, one, exists, and two, tends to be pretty accepting of queer people, and then, probably several queer people who are on a team who would be willing to vouch for you and make sure that it's a safe space for you if you want to just try it too.
Well, I think you and Team Trans gives me hope. I remember the first time I saw that it was forming and exists, and just brought so much joy to me. You know what I mean? As a gay man, to see the trans community um, creating their space until the point that we become that the space is shared by all. I think we have to like elbow and push a little bit and create our space within. And to see that, it was so joyful and empowering and inspiring that, yeah, we're queer people are going to be here. And to see so many people come together, and then so much of the community celebrate it, the hockey community, the queer community, and it's like it's going to have a ripple effect and impact so many in such a positive way. So you all give me hope for the future of queer people in hockey. That you're willing to do that and put yourselves out there and unapologetically say, we're here and we're not leaving and we're going to find a space, is so powerful.
Did you read the New York Times article about the team? At the end, there's a quote from a kid and his mom, who were there. I think it was in the New York Times article. Then one of the articles anyway. And it's a young trans kid, and he plays goalie and follows me on Instagram. We've chatted a little bit. We chatted a little bit there, and we've chatted since. And at one point, he told me that I was one of his two favorite goalies, and the other is Henrik Lundqvist. So that was pretty cool. Um, so it's nice to have, like, to know that um, younger queer people are seeing us too, and they're getting the message that, this is okay. You can be you. You can be you and still play the sport you love.
Completely. Mason, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I don't know. I'm awkward. I'm not good at this.
You're really good at this, and you've said a lot of very powerful things. So if you have nothing else to add, that's okay too.
um, yeah, I don't know.
Well, I want to thank you. I appreciate goalies, being one myself, and I no longer tell people I am a goalie. I say I no longer tell people I identify as one. But I want to thank you. I think you're incredibly strong and courageous, and putting yourself out there, and unapologetically being you is so powerful and so brave, and you're changing the world. Thank you.
It's worth it. It has to be done.